tonight's event is basically going to be a few people have been invited up here to speak. The people who are going to come up and speak are people who are community leaders. Some of them are people from the Palestinian Society, and they're all going to basically have a few minutes to speak to you about what's important to them. So we'll listen to them one at a time, and then George will finish the final speaker. So without any more to do, Gene Patrick, who is an eating friend of Palestine, to come here and take over and start. You see, testing, can we get that fixed?
Try to raise voice.
Can you hear me, everybody?
Yes.
Yeah, my name's Jean. I've lived and worked in the borough of Ealing for 50 years and more. And I think I know this borough pretty well. Acton, Ealing North and Ealing South, which is my constituency. You see in front of you, meet the fresh voice Ealing North deserves. This is what we want, a fresh voice. If you voted for a party that you feel meets your needs locally, nationally and internationally, then vote for them. But I think, and from my personal experience know, the Labour Party has let everybody down, nationally, internationally and locally. I have a good friend in the audience from Ealing Friends of Palestine, which started 6 or 7 months ago. And she knows James Murray really quite well. She's been in conversation with him. He's promised to do this. He's promised to write. He's promised to phone her. He's promised to intervene in the issues she brought up. Has he? No. She happened to be at a meeting the other day, and he was there. And he rushed over and asked her, "Is everything all right?" And she said, "No, not really. I mean, you don't need, I can leave now. You don't need any more than that to know that he is out of touch. Yeah. He doesn't care about people locally. If you live in Ealing North, I don't know how many people here are from Ealing North. Can you just put your hands up if you are from Ealing North? A few people from Ealing North. Certainly Ealing Southall, you know, I would say with 9 hands, Rendlesham has let us down big, big time. So we're talking about Ealing North. So it is about a fresh voice who will bring change. Not only, of course, what is on our mind is really Gaza and Palestine. Of course, that is a big, big, big issue. But equally a big issue are things much more locally. So in front of you on your table, you have something that Oliver New gave out. He's chair of Ealing Trades Union Council, and he's talking about the NHS. He and Eve, his partner, have been tireless for years and years talking about the NHS in the borough of Ealing. If you need to know anything about what's wrong with the NHS as it's run poorly and without funds, go to them. They are the people. So look on your table, you have got a leaflet from them. So Sami will need to, and I'm sure he will, address, because it says also on his flyer, address these local needs. But for me, the people who run things internationally and locally are the same kind of people. They are lacking in integrity. They are lacking in any humanity. They are lacking in any consideration. Sometimes, very often, they fail to engage with either their constituents, or if you have a councillor, the councillors don't engage either. They treat us as fools. And I think it's time for a change. And I'm part of Ealing Friends of Palestine. We started 6 or 7 months ago because a group of us went to Mr. Sharma's office and protested about him not voting for the ceasefire. At the very same time, a group from Ealing North were outside James Murray's office doing the same thing. So the two groups got to know each other, knew about each other, joined forces, and now we have about 1,000 people who follow Ealing Friends of Palestine. So, which is really, really good. We are all very good people, very full of heart and hope, because Palestinians tell us they don't have the luxury of not having hope. You have to hope. So I hope that Sami gets in. He will need a campaign team. We all need to get behind him. We need to be out with the leaflets. We need to be out on stalls. It's not just coming here, nodding our heads, putting our hands up and going away. The hard work begins, I think, after today. So vote Sami Habib.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jean. I just want to say something about Jean. Jean is an advocate and a fighter for this whole area. She's basically been doing this for a long time. So we have a lot of time and a lot of respect for her. And she started up basically a movement in 7 months of 1,000 people. The only way we're going to be able to do these things is with people like Jean, who are getting the people out for the right reasons. I'm going to move on. I'd like to invite Mr. Sabah Al-Mukhtar, President of the Arab Lawyers Association, to come and stand and give us his speech.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not a member of the party, and I don't live in North Ealing. But I came because I want to tell you about two people. One of them is George Galloway. He was kind enough to take me with him to the epic journey.
Put it right next to your mouth. You don't need to press anything.
To the epic journey, which started in London and ended up in Baghdad in Iraq. We went to France, Spain, North Africa, and then we went to Iraq. That was an epic journey, I can tell you, by any standard. It was called the Mariam Appeal. It was the red double-decker bus with a team of dedicated people who were refusing the abuse of humanity, human rights. And George then, again, he did another epic journey to Gaza. And he was kind enough to ask me to join him. And again, we took 100 vehicles from London to Gaza. And that was an eye-opener for me. I've made other trips to Gaza, but that's another issue. Sami Habib, he's a guy who I worked with when he was in the Palestinian Return Center. And they wanted to register the organization with the UN as one of the UN organizations. And I went, they sent me to New York. I went there, made the application and argued it. But the whole thing was run from London by Sami. Sami is a person who can deliver when he says he does. He's not just like any other person. His work is not only on the Palestinian case. He works on social events. He works on the community he is in. He is a man who looks after the interests of the people around him. I think he would be an excellent candidate. I recommend him to you, and I wish him luck in the election. And I think if you want to have a change, the problem we have in this country is that the two main political parties, the Conservative and the Labour, have actually abandoned all the principles, all the humanities. So you have Richie Sunak, who keeps on saying the same thing. You have Keir Starmer, who was willing to actually shamelessly to stand and say, you should stop giving the children in Gaza water, electricity, food, or medicine. And this one, irrespective of the politics and irrespective of the Palestinian case, this is not a stand that a decent human being can do that. And if he can do that, he can do the same thing here. All the promises they made, and I think the Labour Party was destroyed by Tony Blair when he changed it into New Labour and it became New Conservatives. So the choice is between the Conservative and the New Conservative. And I think it's about time the independence, and that's really my main thing I want to say, is that We need to have change in this country. We need the independents to come on. We need the people who stand up for principles, for humanity, for care for the community, rather than being stooges of one policy or another. Thank you.
Testing. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 1, 2, 3. I think it's okay now. Can everyone hear me? Yeah? Awesome. Let's do this. It's better. Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce now to our next speaker. Can you fix this microphone for me? Testing, 1, 2, 3. I love George.
Hello everyone. Assalamu alaikum. I am happy to speak on behalf of the Palestinian Forum in Britain and the Arab Voice campaign, for the elections. We fully support the candidate Sami Habib in Ealing North. I have known Sami since 2008. He is always active, ambitious, determined, smart, and aware. These are the things politicians need to serve people well. I think Sami made a good choice by joining the Workers' Party led by the well-versed and experienced George Galloway. The individual work will not be as effective to face large groups and will remain scattered in the face of parties and coalitions. We need strong groups like Workers' Party to face the Labour and Conservative, to support Gaza, which has been let down and down by them. I think the blood of Gaza's children, occurs on every British politician who has abandoned them. Go ahead, Sam. Go ahead, George. Go ahead, everyone in this party and everyone supporting Gaza. We have to work more and more to stop the power for the pro-Zionist in this country. In the end, I think the Great Britain, to be great and stronger, it has to support just causes, especially the Palestinian cause. Thank you.
I'm going to try this again. I'm going to try this again. Speak. No, we're saying if you can, gives them a chance to fix the mic. If you can, so not. Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome, friends, guests, brothers, and sisters. I'm happy to be here to join you all as a member of Ealing Friends of Palestine and also as an imam working in the local area, working in the mosques in this borough. I'm very happy to be here and to see all the people from the different parts of the community come together. Over the last 9 months, we have made our voices and our concerns very loud and very clear. We started off our movement when the genocide began, and we made it very, very clear. We said no ceasefire, no vote. That's what we started off with. And we can see that that slogan has now materialized, and we are standing here and we're saying the same thing. All those who abstained, James Murray, Sharma, who weren't brave enough to stand up for the 14,000 or more children that have been slaughtered in Gaza, they still don't have the backbone to say anything to defend the women and the children that are being killed on a daily basis. If that is their stance over the last 9 or 10 months, we don't need them anymore. We are here as Ealing Friends of Palestine and as an imam in the local area, and hopefully with the support of the Muslim community, which is a large population here. We support Brother Sami and we give him our full support, and we hope for him to succeed. But he can only succeed if we all stand here united in our cause. That we stand together, we put our differences aside, and we think and look at the bigger picture. And the bigger picture clearly is with our votes, with our support, with our campaigning, and bringing our brother Sami to the top. And he has worked himself. He is a Palestinian, and he has come here and he's worked from the bottom, and he's worked all the way to where he is now. So we hope and we pray and we wish him success. I would also like to add, if you don't mind, just change my hat and put on my imam hat just for a second, if you don't mind. And I want to focus a little bit more, especially on the Muslim audience. And that is the fact that, brothers and sisters, we have an obligation here. That is not just politics that we are playing. We have an obligation here, and the obligation, Inna Allaha ya'muru bil adli wal ihsan. God Almighty, He orders us with justice. He orders us to stand up for the truth. He orders us to stand alongside those who are trying their best. And Sami, we see he is trying his best. It is our, not just our political obligation, but it is our religious obligation to support Sami. That we have to support those who are supporting those that don't have a voice. Brothers and sisters, I'd just like to share with you that in Ealing North, James Murray in 2019, he won by a 12,000 majority. And the Muslim vote alone is 18,000. That means you have Muslims alone. I'm not excluding the non-Muslims, so I don't think I'm missing you out. But I'm just trying to wake up a particular segment of the community. 18,000, if all of you came out and you voted, you could swing the vote. Not just that it's a obligation because of Gaza, but Islamophobia is at its peak. Since last year, it has increased 600%. Our mosques in Acton have been vandalized. Our mosques in Shepherd's Bush have been vandalized.
Our religious institutions have been vandalized. When are we going to stand if it is not now? The genocide is on one side. Islamophobia is on one side. As Muslims, it is our duty that we stand for that which is right and we bring about change. We cannot remain silent. I will make a bold statement here today, and you can record my statement. And that is that remaining silent is criminal. Remaining silent is criminal. We must stand. We must stand together, united in our cause, and we will support and bring about, hopefully, the victory of our brother Sami. And before I sit down, I would also like to say that this is just the beginning of the journey. Just down the road, Verinder Sharma has his office. I would just like to let him know he's next. Yeah. His chair is next. He had the opportunity to call for a ceasefire and he didn't, he abstained. We wrote him letters and he gave us pathetic responses, which made no sense after reading 5 or 6 different paragraphs. We are not going to be fooled anymore. Sharma, you are next. And I will give you one final statistic before I sit down. And that is that Verinder Sharma, he won by a 16,000 majority. And the Muslim vote alone is 17,000. You could swing the vote again. And my last thing, as Muslims in Ealing Southall, we are the second largest faith group. The first largest faith is the Sikh community. And the Sikh community are known for standing for that which is right, for standing for justice, and for standing for true causes. With the Sikh community, with the Muslim community, and with the rest of you, we can swing the vote in all of these places. I thank you very much. And Sami, we wish you the best.
Well spoken tonight. Thank you. Well spoken. Amazing speech. I really was moved by that. It's very passionate. So I'd like to invite Jody. Jody, is that better? If I hold it this far away? No one likes it. I need to get this working for George. Okay, guys, so I'm going to invite Jody McIntyre, who's a member of the Workers' Party. He's driven down here, and he is one of the stars of our party. So I'll just quickly invite him to come up. Jody, can I ask you to use the microphone? Because
I'm going to talk. Can do it in there.
Okay.
I'll do it with the mic. It's a bit difficult.
They won't hear you.
They will, of course.
Okay, go on and get going.
Hello, everyone. Thank you to everyone for coming, and thank you to my brother Sami for inviting me down. The first time I travelled to Gaza was in 2009 alongside George, and I remember we visited the now decimated Al-Shifa hospital, and we met children whose skins had literally been burnt black by the white phosphorus shells dropped by the Israeli army. We also met with paramedics whose colleagues had been targeted and killed whilst trying to recover the dead and the wounded. And we met with families displaced, now living in tents with their whole lives turned upside down. Now, 15 years later, the same pattern is being repeated. And we see families living in tents in Rafah under the Israeli bombs, often manufactured and supplied from the UK and sent to the Israeli state. However, there is one change that I've noticed, at least here in Britain. In 2009, we still had to show people where Palestine was on a map. In 2009, we still had to argue and convince people that we were on the side of truth and justice. But who doesn't know about Palestine today? And that's why I would argue that now the time for persuading and convincing is over, and it's time for action. I've driven down from Birmingham Yardley today, where I will be standing as MP against the incumbent Labour friend of Israel, Jess Phillips.
No.
Can you believe that the MP in Birmingham Yardley is a friend of Israel? In fact, I think she's the only friend of Israel left in Birmingham Yardley. However, I think we should say, despite the heartache and horror we feel at the events, the murder, the bloodshed in Gaza, we are not standing on a one platform slate. Indeed, we are also standing up for the working people in this country who have been condemned by the Conservatives and abandoned by Labour. We are also standing up for the disabled people who have been condemned by the Conservatives and abandoned by Labour. We are also standing up for the single mothers who have been condemned by the Conservatives and abandoned by Labour. Now, I would say that out of all the independent candidates and pro-Palestinian candidates I've seen, I have probably come under the most abuse and the most attack online. And that's fine by me, totally fine by me. But the reason I'm highlighting it is because the political establishment are very, very, very concerned by this movement. And over the next months leading up to the general election, we are going to see a spate of smears and attacks. So my advice to everyone who supports this movement is, let's not make the same mistakes we made in the past. Let's not make the same errors we made in the past. We are going up against a well-oiled political machine, and we have to be united and we have to be strong. But there's no doubt that the anger and the feeling in the community is huge. And that's why I hope that I will win in Birmingham Yardley and Sami will definitely win in Ílín. Thank you very much.
I'm going to try one more time to see if this thing's going to work. Ladies and gentlemen, it's now time has come for me to introduce Sami to you. Sami, as most of you know, is our candidate, and I just want to say very quickly that he's come from Gaza, the place that's being bombarded at the moment, and he represents the kind of person that we as the Workers' Party look to guide us on things about Gaza, but also about the workers. As has been said by Jody, we're not a single issue party. We're not only about Palestine, but in George Galloway, we do have the greatest champion of Gaza and the Palestinian people. George has been doing this for 50 years. He was personal friends with Yasser Arafat. He was in Lebanon when Lebanon was attacked. So you've got a champion of Palestinian people standing on this stage in the name of George Galloway. And Sami Habib is basically a child of Gaza that has grown up and become a man of Britain, and he now will be representing us in your constituency as hopefully your Member of Parliament for Ealing North. Sami.
Bravo. Thank you. Am I going to test as well, or shall I drop the mic? Okay, thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming here today. Is it okay now? Testing. Okay, so I'm preparing it for George. I have to admit that it's always a challenging experience to speak before or after George, given that George would always wow the audience here. So it's quite of a challenge to grab your attention, but I'll do my best, I'm standing in the next general elections for many reasons. And before I share my story and background, I'd like to do a flashback. 2017, I was in my house. It was January, very cold night, and the police knocked my door. The police asked to come in, and I said, yeah, most welcome. So they got into the house, and they asked to speak to me privately. It was almost midnight. I was a little bit terrified why the police would come that late. What did I do? I didn't do anything wrong. But you would be shocked to know why. They said, your next of kin, Yusuf, committed suicide. Yusuf is somebody who lived in Ealing North. He was with mental illness, bipolar and other mental illness, many diseases. And I had to take him from one hospital to another. And I had to go to Ealing Council, which is a Labour-run council. They evicted him. They kicked him out. They didn't offer him any accommodation. He was admitted to Central Middlesex Hospital in Park Royal. He was then evicted and thrown out because the hospital couldn't accommodate him. Practically no beds. So in that story, we have two main issues that I'll be championing in my campaign. The NHS, including the mental health, and also the housing crisis that we got in this country, particularly here in Ealing North. But to come back to my story, and I'm always proud to say that I'm a migrant, I'm a Palestinian, I'm a Gazan. I was born in the Gaza Strip in the 80s, late 80s, mid 80s. I've witnessed many parts of the first Intifada, just briefly before Oslo Accord. So I still remember how the Israelis used to invade our homes, break into our towns, beat our families, and attack us regularly. And just in April in 1994, a few weeks before the withdrawal from the Gaza Strip, as per the agreement, the Oslo Accord, my friend in the school, Shafiq al-Shawa, was killed before my eyes. That's another traumatic experience that I had. From that moment, I started to be politicized. I was always politicized, watching the news, expecting the Israelis to withdraw as per the phases of the Oslo Accord, as maybe some of you remember, that the Oslo Accord included some phases where they have to move from the Gaza Strip and Jericho in the very first phase, and then from the other West Bank cities. But quickly after that, the Israeli Prime Minister was assassinated, Isaac Rabin. And he was assassinated by Yigal Amir, which is another fanatic. He's a follower of Benjamin Netanyahu of the Likud party. He assassinated him because Israelis did not believe in peace that time. And they considered what Rabin did was a major mistake. Oslo Accord was a major mistake for the Israelis. And from that moment, Shimon Peres was the Israeli prime minister, and then Benjamin Netanyahu came, and we saw the Intifada of the tunnel, where the Israelis dug tunnel under the Al-Aqsa Mosque to drive this religious war. And as we can see, we're still experiencing the ramifications of this religious war, because Israelis do not believe in anything except them being in that piece of land. This is how my character was shaped. A few years after that, we had the second Intifada erupting as the Camp David agreement failed between Yasser Arafat and Ehud Barak. So the second Intifada erupted, and we started to witness, and I started to witness the Israeli bombing and the attacks that were waged by Ariel Sharon from that moment up to the years to come. And then we experienced the siege and the other medieval and draconian measures that were taken against us by the Israelis. I left the Gaza Strip after I worked as a journalist, as a war reporter, and also as an international aid worker. I came to this country and I've never forgotten my people. I've never forgotten the suffering that I had as somebody who was born within the intifadas. And I started to be proactive and speak about my people, to speak on behalf of the Palestinians, to speak for social justice, and to raise awareness about our suffering and the plight as Palestinians. So quickly after I arrived to the UK, I was never out of the picture. And the Israel lobby would always come and attack you. You would get smeared, you would get attacked. They would accuse you of being anti-Semite because you say the truth and you just represent the people there. So I was regularly smeared by the Israel lobby and their group, often accused of being anti-Semite or of a friend of a self-hating Jew, etc. But this has always made me stronger and always made me adamant to continue to work for my people and also to my local communities. So I joined the Labour Party believing that the Labour Party is the party that would represent us all. People of ethnic minorities, people with disability, people with all issues to be addressed. And as you always know, Labour is always telling us that we as a Labour Party, progressive socialists, representing you as ethnic minority. But this is bizarre, it's rubbish in a way or another. Labour Party does not represent us in a way or another. Labour Party is only now representing the interest of the corporate donors. One of them is a donor who was bankrolling the apartheid in South Africa. Now he's practically supporting Keir Starmer leadership. So why I'm running in this election? So Gaza, yes, is one of the issues, but as I said before, there are many local issues to be addressed here. To start with, foreign policy is an issue here for all of us, even people who do not care about Gaza. It's an issue that all of us care about. You know, our tax money is now practically going to Israel. Our military aid is going to Israel. Why? You know, we have an NHS crisis, we have a housing crisis, we have a crisis everywhere. Why on earth the government, backed by the opposition, would allow this to happen? Labour and Conservatives got disagreements everywhere, except when it comes to Israel. Both parties are in agreement to support Israel and its war crime and the genocide. We've seen how this unprincipled block of wood, senseless, cold-blooded Keir Starmer, and how he endorsed this famine and genocide in the Gaza Strip. This is the party that is taking votes from people of ethnic minorities, progressive people, liberal, who always champion, you know, human rights of people from different parts of the world. This is a party we once believed in as a party for the change. This party is practically now involved in this genocide, being silent and a way or another allowing the conservatives to continue with their plan to ethnically cleanse Palestinians. Yes, we blame Labour Party. We also blame the conservatives for this biased foreign policy, which got to change. And this is why I see the importance of the Workers' Party and also the independent movement here. We need to bring an end to this two-party system. It's got to an end now. And I think this Gaza scenario is the perfect opportunity for us to come together, to be united on this issue. Yes, there are other issues like the NHS, housing, renationalization, and other issues being left not dealt with. It's a concern for all of us, but Gaza is an issue which we'll always focus on. So when it comes to Ealing North, that we need here is really badly needed for a lot of people here. And part of my campaign in the next weeks is focusing on the NHS. We're going to launch a mega campaign declaring Ealing as a crisis zone here. We have massive number of people with heart diseases, kidney failure, and other diseases. And simply the Labour-run council is not doing enough. Yes, the funding is coming from the government, but Ealing Council got some jurisdiction in which they could use to make some campaign, public health awareness, and other screening units to help people to mitigate this crisis. We often being as people living here, which is a joke. They always talk about their achievement. Train. We cannot afford it. Simply, I used to live in West Ealing, and I had to go to get my mortgage and to move to Uxbridge. I had to buy a house because I simply cannot just pay $1 million or $2 million to buy a house in Ealing North. And that's the experience of everyone here. We cannot just afford buying houses. Ealing Council, which is run by Labour for many years, is not doing enough. And a lot of people criticize me for focusing too much on Ealing Council. I'm not the Labour member of Parliament, and this is for many reasons here. I can't see the member of Parliament, James Money, doing anything. Nothing, practically doing nothing on this issue. And Labour has been controlling Ealing for many years. What is the legacy of the Labour Party here? Practically nothing. And people are aware of what I'm talking about. So I wish that you could join me in the next weeks in my campaign. If you could share your details with us, we have some forms here for volunteers. We need a lot of volunteers. If we are to win this seat, we need a lot of people to come out, to canvass for us, and to work with us, to speak to locals here. Showing up in some of the events is good. Speaking in social media is perfect. But we need to come out, we need to knock doors, we need to speak to voters, we need to canvass to convince them. As Junaid said, it's a slim, I know it's a safe seat, but now it's a slim majority for them. We could defeat Labour here, like my expectation, unlike the public opinions here, that the Workers' Party would cause a hung parliament. I'm adamant about this. George will have his own judgment into this, but as somebody seeing the political atmosphere, with 100 constituencies where we stand as Workers' Party, a hung parliament is very close, and I hope it's going to happen. Thank you for being here. I'm looking forward to working with you.
As Sami said, if you guys can help, that would be great. I'm not going to say anything else other than say, George, take this mic and let's hope it works. George Galloway, gentlemen and ladies.
Brothers and sisters, comrades and friends, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. I literally have just touched down, my good wife and I, touched down at Heathrow not 1 hour before entering this hall. I was in Rome, in the Vatican, and as the Pope said to me, Sami Habib for Ealing North. That's what we need in the British Parliament. He didn't go quite as far as that. I'm paraphrasing. Just for the man from the Daily Mail, who's undoubtedly at the back of the hall. He didn't quite say that. But what he did say was that the slaughter of the innocents in the Gaza Strip is the greatest moral crisis in the world today. And as a matter of fact, after our conversation with His Holiness the Pope, we went to look at some of the art in the Vatican, quite priceless, divine art. And my eye was caught by one of the paintings there of King Herod literally slicing the neck of a small child. And it immediately struck me that Benjamin Netanyahu and his murder gang in Tel Aviv are the King Herod of the 21st century. And it is perfectly correct to describe them as such. There's nothing anti-Semitic about it. Herod was killing Jewish children, and Netanyahu is killing Christian and Muslim children. But the point is not the religion of either the victim or the perpetrator. It is that to slaughter infants, children, babies is a sin, is a crime under any religion, under any law, under any kind of civilization. I want to thank you for the opportunity to address this great launch. It has brought me back in touch with some people, more than some actually, that I have not seen for quite some time. It's a reunion of old friends and others. Sabah al-Mukhtar said, I was kind enough to invite him to travel on a double-decker bus, 1960 through 63 London route master, all the way from Big Ben to Baghdad. That would not be a kind thing to ask someone to do, not least because we slept on that bus as well as traveled on that bus. We broke down every day, literally every day. We traveled, yes, through France. I remember when we woke up that morning at the Fête de la Humanité in Paris, the flags were fluttering and people were gathering for what became later in the day a mighty manifestation of international solidarity. And everyone's eyes were on our red London bus, which said along one side, we love the people of Iraq. No war, no sanctions on the other side. Our speaker system, which was better than this one, by the way, blared out John Lennon, give peace a chance. All we are saying is give peace a chance. And all you need is love, as I recall. After, I don't know how many weeks, I told you it was a very slow bus. You wouldn't want to be waiting for it in the Ealing High Street. When we finally arrived in Baghdad, we arrived to the biggest welcome any British citizens ever received anywhere in the entire history of this country. 3 million people were on the streets of Baghdad. You can see it. There's a movie narrated by Julie Christie, the Oscar-winning actress, called Big Ben to Baghdad. It's on YouTube. Look it up. You'll see how young we looked back then. And now, thanks to Sami Habib, I'm reunited with my comrade Sabah. As he said, we also made other journeys. I led 5 convoys to break the siege on Gaza. The one that my comrade Jody was on, and 4 others. I'm mentioning that not to blow my trumpet, but to make the point that this didn't start on October the 7th last year. How could it possibly, if it started on October the 7th, as idiots on the news keep telling us, why were we there breaking the siege in 2009? Why were the people starving in 2009 such that we had to lead 120 vehicles all the way from London through many battles, actually mostly with the Arab regimes who were either so keen to see the back of us that they gave us free petrol and didn't allow us to stop anywhere, even for a toilet break. If you stopped for the toilet, they were hurrying you on to the border. Or, in the case of the then Egyptian dictatorship of Hosni Mubarak, they were confronting us literally with guns and with other weapons. But we got there. And again, the whole of the Gaza Strip turned out in the dead of night to receive and welcome this convoy. And many of those who were there that night are now dead. In fact, their children are now dead in the years, short period of years, since that first convoy arrived. So I'm very happy indeed to see my brother Sabah again after all these years. I recognize also, not least because without him I wouldn't have any mic at all, my comrade Abu Bakr Sarwar from Manchester, who would have been back up north, but I asked him to come here. I must have had a premonition that the speakers wouldn't work. Abu Bakr has just been central to, I believe, the greatest victory, even greater than my victory in Rochdale, the greatest electoral victory that we have scored so far was in Longsight in Manchester, where he and his brother, our councillor, Shahbaz Sarwar, defeated the deputy leader of the Manchester City Council just a few weeks ago in the May elections. Why was it greater? Well, first of all, I didn't actually have to defeat Labour. They defeated themselves before the campaign even got underway. It doesn't mean they didn't do everything they could to stop me. Of course they did. But Abu Bakr and Shahbaz had to fight the ugliest machine that anybody in these islands has ever fought. There is no dirtier group of people than a Labour Party in a one-party state in Manchester with no opposition at all, with their deputy leader as the candidate. There is no machine anywhere in this country that will stoop lower than the Labour Party threatened in its heartland. And as I put it at the time when Shahbaz won, they threw the kitchen sink. In fact, they threw the toilet bowl. I'll tell you this. I arrived at the I'm just waiting for George to arrive. It was one of the most touching things ever said that touched my heart. But when I got there, the tears of the Labour Party was like rain in the desert for me. It was like rain in the desert. Their bitter tears were for themselves. They have no tears for the innocents in Gaza that their party has been collaborating in the slaughter of the innocents. And I want to see those tears on Sharma's face come the general election. He thoroughly deserves it. And just as much. And I'm grateful to Sami. He educated me about more than one thing tonight. It turns out the Member of Parliament for Ealing North goes by the name of James Murray. I have never in my whole life ever heard of James Murray. If he was in here right now, I would not recognize him. And I'm an MP sitting in the Parliament with him. Who is he? Who is James Murray? I have never heard the Speaker call a James Murray. I have never seen the name James Murray on the monitor. I've never heard his name on the television. I've never read his name in the newspaper. He's a nobody. You're represented by a nobody here in Ealing North. No wonder the place has the kind of problems that Sami has described. But I'll tell you this, if Sami Habib becomes the MP for Ealing North, his name will resound across the whole world, never mind just across the British political scene. They'll be hailing his name in Gaza. How good would that be? How good would it be for the people in Ealing North to know that the children in Gaza were cheering for your member of Parliament because he'd won such a great and magnificent victory, and it can be done. The second thing you educated me on was that there are 18,000 Muslim voters in Ealing North. I wish I'd known that. I might have stood here myself before now. 18,000. Which Muslim is going to vote against a Palestinian in favor of somebody called James Murray, who couldn't even vote to stop the slaughter of Palestinians? Think about it. I mean, I don't want to get religious, but as a believer in the judgment day myself, how would you answer that question on the judgment day? Yes, Lord, I voted for James Murray instead of Sami Habib. Who on earth could answer that question with any hope of getting through the pearly gates if their answer was James Murray, Lord? I voted for a nobody called James Murray. I'd never heard of him. He never did anything for me. He never did anything for anybody. But I voted for him anyway, even though the blood was dripping from his hands. What Muslim could possibly do that? And then there are all the other people, the Sikh people. I have my very first friend. I grew up in a totally white town. I mean, I was 20 before I ever spoke to a person of color. The first person of color that I met and became friends with was a Sikh. His name was Charan Singh Atwal. I've never seen him for almost 50 years. But if he hears this, I ask him to get in touch, because Charan Singh Atwal and me traveled up and down on a bus to London to protest in the streets of London against the war against the children of Vietnam. It was formative, that struggle for me, long before I even dreamt that I would myself one day have children that look like the children of Vietnam. Me and Charan on the bus to London. Buses, by the way, then were not like your coach to London now. No toilets or anything like that. It was sitting bolt upright in a very, very rough bus journey. We did it over and over and over again, just like you are now over the Gaza war and all the demonstrations here. That's what we did in 1974 as the Vietnamese people gathered their strength. They were the hammer. We were the anvil. the great movement of solidarity around the world. We were the anvil, the Vietnamese fighters were the hammer, and between that hammer and that anvil, the Vietnamese people were victorious, as the Palestinian people will be victorious also. So, ever since those days, I've loved the Sikh people and come to know many of them. And we must make a great alliance here in Ealing and Southall with the Sikh people and with the working class people of all backgrounds. Because it's not just the Palestinians that have been betrayed by Labour. It's the workers that have been betrayed by Labour. Labour, as the name suggests, is supposed to be, was invented to be the party which stood up for the working people. The people who had nothing to sell except their labour, except their work. Anybody really think Keir Starmer has any interest in delivering anything meaningful for working class people? To be fair to him, he's not even pretending that he will. Hardly a day goes by without Keir Starmer telling you how rough it's going to be for working class people. He's not going to spend more on the NHS. He's not going. I gave a speech in Parliament Monday about damp housing, cold and damp housing, which cost the lives and the health of millions of people in this country, including here in London. I'm certain here in Ealing. Starmer's already told us he's not going to spend more money on cold and damp houses. He's not going to build the 1 million homes that Jeremy Corbyn in his brief leadership promised to build. Starmer is very clear. The rich and the powerful are safe with him. He's Tony Blair without the laughs, without the polish, without the pizzazz. He is a block of wood. I've seen birds nesting in him. I know that to be true. This Labour Party is a contradiction to its very name. And that's how the Workers' Party came into being. Because every country needs a Labour Party, a party for the working people. And we had one once, and now we don't. And therefore, a new one had to be brought into being. People ask me, well, how socialist is it? How left is it? The people on the very far left don't think it's left enough. The people in the centre on the right worry it might be too left. I've only got two words for you. Tony Benn. We are the party that Tony Benn would have led if he had still been with us. Think Tony Benn Labour, that's us in the Workers' Party. No need to frighten anybody's horses, if any of you have got them, but absolutely clear and determined. And thanks to my good friend Hos, our London organiser, Hussein, we are fielding 500 candidates in the general election when it comes. Now, we're not going to win 500, though we are going to win many more than people think. And where we don't win, we're going to make sure Labour loses.
Yes.
And we're going to make sure Labour loses, both because they deserve to lose and also because our strategic goal is to have a hung parliament.
Yes.
A hung parliament is what this country needs. Then whoever is to be the Prime Minister. Even if it's little Rishi Sunak. He's much smaller than you think he is, by the way. He wears high heels. And he still can hardly see over the dispatch box. I mean, I sit at the back, and I'm struggling to see his eyes when he's at the dispatch box. He's a very little man in every respect. But even if he hopes to be the Prime Minister, he'll have to come and negotiate with Jeremy Corbyn, me, Sami, and all the other candidates that we're going to elect. And our price will not be small, whoever comes asking. And the first thing we'll say is you have to completely break your relationship with the apartheid colonial state of Israel. You will have to stop selling them weapons. You'll have to stop flying over Gaza so they can target children better. You'll have to pull out from all these wars that you're taking us into and wasting our money on. I mean, have you seen how much money we've given to little Zelensky in the Ukraine? Billions! You could completely transform all the hospitals in England for the price of what we've given to Ukraine alone. Never mind all the other wasteful expenditure on NATO wars and patrols. I mean, people ask, especially down in Dover, where's the Royal Navy? I'll tell you where the Royal Navy are. They're in the Red Sea, the Black Sea, the South China Sea, any sea except our sea. And they're supposed to be defending us. Have you any idea? These weapons that we've been firing at the poor people of Yemen, £200,000 a shot. £200,000 just for the missile. Never mind the cost of the ships and the sailors to fire weapons at Yemenis. Actually, I'm so old. One of my first memories was the British Armed Forces firing at Yemenis. 1968 in the Crater district of Aden. In a way, that's where I came in, 14 years old, watching men in kilts, playing bagpipes, shooting the natives. In Yemen, now we're shooting them again at £200,000 a shot. And we fired hundreds of shots. You could transform the landscape in Britain. If this money that is being wasted on weapons and war was spent instead on hospitals and schools and homes, how different would our country be? And if they want our support in Parliament, they'll have to make significant progress in that direction. I believe, as others have said this evening, that this is a major turning point for the British people. Never in my lifetime has it been possible to imagine that anybody else except me in Bethnal Green and Bow, in Bradford West, now in Rochdale, that anybody except me could win parliamentary elections against the big two parties of the state. But now everybody knows, especially Labour. James Murray certainly knows that Sami Habib could well beat him in the general election when it comes. This is a major transformation. Everybody knows, up and down the country, we're fielding candidates or supporting candidates who are standing as independents who have a real chance of winning. Another one is another Palestinian, Liane Mohammed, who's standing in Ilford against Wes Streeting. My goodness, what rejoicing there would be if Liane. Imagine if we had two Palestinians in Parliament. We'd get a split right away, but the two of them, imagine, two Palestinian MPs standing up, confronting Starmer if it was him, or Little Rishi if it was him. You've been helping to kill our people. Our people's blood is on your hands. What have you got to say for yourself? What a breakthrough that would be. So everybody knows that this time, the idea that millions of people, whether from the ethnic minority communities, and it is all of them, plus all of the non-minority communities who are enraged at what's happening in Gaza, everybody knows this time those millions ain't going to vote for Labour. And that is a huge change, because Labour's entire game plan is based on 3, 4, 5 million votes that are now gone. And if Labour loses 3, 4, 5 million votes, how are they going to win a general election? You need 13 million votes to win a general election. If you lose 3, 4, or 5 million of those, you aren't going to win. And that's the prize that is just over the horizon for us. You've got a bit more time than you thought you would. I thought the general election would have been in June. It's now effectively postponed until earliest October, but it could be November, could be in the snows of December or even January. You must use that time to build a mighty campaign team. There's no substitute for campaigning. Social media is important, but not that important. Makes you feel good seeing your face on Twitter, but it doesn't touch the mass of the voters in Ealing North, most of whom are not on Twitter and will never see that face on Twitter. You need a WhatsApp group with thousands of people on it. I commend it to you. In Rochdale, we had 1,400 people on our WhatsApp group within 48 hours of the campaign beginning. You need that. And that means every day you're telling that 1,000, 1,500 people what's the next stage of the campaign, where we're meeting, where we're delivering, which doors we're knocking, what issues we're prioritizing. And you need to start that urgently and now. This is a magnificent meeting and a wonderful setting. It's a great start, but it's only a start. Sami Habib, MP. Well, make the Pope quite happy, actually, even though he didn't say so. I repeat, for the man from the Daily Mail. Thanks very much indeed.
I just wanted to say thanks, George. That was absolutely amazing. We all had a really good laugh. I was cracking up. So what can I tell you? Thank you very much, George. Sami, what are we doing next?
It's Q&A if people have some questions.
Okay.
And then we'll have a picture together, all of us on the stage and out.
There's a lady here.
Okay, so we'll have some questions.
Lady.
Go for it, madam.
I just wanted to say to George, thank you very much for,
A little louder, Senator. A little louder.
Sorry?
A little louder.
No, I just wanted to say thank you to George Galloway. I've been a fan of yours for a long time.
Thank you.
I didn't like the big brother, but anyway, what it was that
You don't look old enough to remember that.
You've given us hope, The fact that you what you've done is, the seat you've got is giving us hope. And you know, that's all I wanted to say. Just a big thank you.
Thank you. Well, it's most kind of you, ma'am. I always answer to those who can speak Arabic. When they say thank you, I always answer La shukra ala wajh. Don't thank me for doing my duty. It is my duty. I see it as a duty, and I need no thanks for it. But you are correct in the referencing of our victory in Rochdale, which made it suddenly obvious that a huge change was taking place, and that individual candidates, small parties, could smash the duopoly, the uni party, the two cheeks of the same backside that I speak of. They could get a good kicking if people come together at election time. And I think that that is the fundamental change that's happening. And we have to keep fighting for it all the rest of this year. And if we do, there may be some great prizes for us. Yes, sir.
Yeah, yeah.
Good evening, everybody. George, I'm a Sikh born and raised in Southall. And the London Borough of Ealing are going to build on the Sikh temple at Park Avenue, which is where Southall Station is. And I feel that the country is at stake as well. If we can get Brenda out and get somebody from the Workers' Party in, would you please make it so that they don't build on the temple where my father's funeral was? Etumkar Satanam Wahibru. Thank you. And we support justice and love and truth. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul. I'll let Sami answer that.
Yeah, thank you. I think the party is now working within the 3 seats of Ealing. Candidates are being selected as we speak. There will be a candidate for Southall, and I'm sure he's going to be fighting for this. We're meeting, is arranging a meeting next week. We're meeting with a lot of locals in Southall, and this would be taken in consideration as well. We will be ensuring that Sharma is out by selecting a good local candidate, very active. I don't want to say who he is now, but a strong candidate who's been very vocal locally and who's got some history here. Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, sir. The youngest.
Habib, yeah, it's my son.
Ya Kareem. Ahlan wa sahlan.
Come near here. Come near here.
Yeah, come. Yeah.
I know what he's going to ask.
So we're all very grateful that everybody managed to speak, and I just wanted to say thank you for everybody for coming and making sure that we can to get rid of the Labour Party.
Kareem, Sami's son, the next politician in the family. MashaAllah. Anyone else?
Who's got a question? If you have, put your hand up so I can point you out.
No, everybody.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, we got the man in there.
I think the gentleman here.
No, it's okay. Let's go to the ladies first. And then
Fatima, yeah, from the Palestinian community. She's community leader.
Hi, my name is Fatima. I'm from Palestinian community and I'm Palestinian refugee in Lebanon, born and grew up in southern Syria, refugee camp. But I'm a British and I live in not too far from Ealing. I would like just to say to Sami, congratulations, and I wish you to get your elected as an MP in Ealing. On behalf of the Palestinian society in Britain, basically. I would like to ask George this time.
towards me.
I know, George, you've been really a great supporter for Palestine for ages and for years, even before 1982 when you came to Beirut to visit Yasser Arafat in Sabra, in Al-Fakhani, with your friends Del Spears, Allah yarhamu, and others, other friends. I would like now wish that George, you are going to. Sorry. you are going more to be supportive for other elected from the community. I think as an Arab, as Palestinian, if you walk in London, you find about maybe 50 languages spoken in London. However, we still in the UK and in London as an Arab underrepresented, as a councillors, as MPs, and we would like you to step in for this actually, and to find more people in the parliament to stand and to to stand for MPs for the cause of Palestine definitely. So this is it's not an order, but it's a wish from you, George, because we like you.
I'm going to reply to that question quite simply. I am looking for candidates, and I'm looking for because I'm the guy that basically runs the candidates for London, and we are looking for people who want to stand up. If they're Arabs, if they're English, anyone that wants to come and stand up for us in London, that's got the same mindset as our party. We are a workers' party first and foremost. We love Palestine. It is a cause that George has had 50 years backing. So if you know an Arab who wants to stand, come and see me. I'm more than happy to get involved. I'm more than happy to do whatever I can. But we're not looking just for Arabs. We want the best candidates, people who are going to stand up for their communities. I don't care where you're from, so long as you want to stand up and count against this duopoly that's in power at the moment. Okay? So I'm available before the end of the night. If you've got people, take my number and give it to whoever.
It's a potential candidate here.
Potential candidate, come here.
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to say, my name is Dr. Khalid Abu Tayyib.
come this side خالد. تعال هنا يبا. تعال هنا يبا. أحسنت.
I would like to thank all the heroes here, Mr. George, Sami, and Mr. Sabah, and Mr. Adnan, and Imam, and all of you. So I am the son of a Nakba survivor, I can say. My mom, she told me always
particularly, but they support us because at this point in time, we are the party closest to their approach to British and international issues. And I'm content with that. You don't have to have signed up to and ticked every box of the Workers' Party manifesto, its 10-point program. We want your votes if you, like us, want to stop the slaughter in Gaza. We want your votes if you, like us, want to see an end to the situation in which a total, by the way, I wasn't joking. I've never heard of James Murray. If he walked in here now, he would be a complete stranger to me. He's a shadow. Now it's getting worse. He's a shadow minister. Well, he's definitely a shadow. I don't know about minister. I doubt he'll ever be a minister, but he'll always be a shadow to me. I'm going to look him up on my phone when I'm finished this meeting, but I promise you, if Sami was your MP, you wouldn't need to look him up. He'd be everywhere in Ealing, and he'd be everywhere, all over the Parliament, all over the front pages. It would send a shock across the whole world if Ealing North could get an MP like that at the general election.
Is there any more questions anyone's got? Would you like to come forward? This is Joe Banga. He's looking to be Bangu, sorry, my apologies. He's looking to become one of our candidates for Southall Ealing.
No, it's okay. Good evening, sir. Just a quick one. When you're in Parliament next, could you do us all a favour, please? Could you see if you could find James Murray hiding behind the desk or hiding in the toilets? Thank you.
What about Virendra Sharma?
He's so afraid of the election that you don't see him walking on the streets no more. He might come across J.S. Bangu. That's his problem.
Are there any more questions from anybody?
Take a picture.
Of course.
Well, it would certainly be unprecedented for the leader of the opposition to be defeated. So it's a very big ask. But if anyone can do it, Andrew Feinstein is the man that can do it. He is an outstanding figure, an outstanding candidate, and he'll have an outstanding amount of support. He'll have people coming from all over to try and defeat Keir Starmer. He'll be well funded because people will want to make crowdfunding contributions to someone who might beat Keir Starmer. But he's not our candidate, so in that sense, although we support him, it's not my duty to make him win. It's my duty to make Sami win. And that's what I'm going to concentrate on. I have to drive to Rochdale now with my good friend Abu Bakr and my wife. So I want to take your leave, if I may, and have a picture with the next MP. I'll tell you what, I'm going to take a picture of that James Murray so I can remember him. I'm going to put him on my fridge.
All of us can come here. I'm going to take a picture of all of us here if you want.
my constituents when I was the MP in Glasgow.
Can you face the camera like one row here? Face the camera with the pictures, everyone. Pictures. We have 2 people coming. You can come in the back. Ready? Two. Come to the stage.
Sami Habib! Thank you very much, all.
Thank you.
Sorry. Yeah, a bit late.
مالك فاتح الاير دروب؟
فاتح.
اخذت الصور؟ عادي المايك. اخذ كم واحد
جاي.